Yeah, I'm in my biking attire still. I went for a little ride today. It was December and 65 degrees. You know what? I think that whatever Apple's doing to help the environment, it is not working. Anyway, speaking of power bricks in the environment, Apple does some questionable things from time to time. Is that no, that's a fair take. That is absolutely a fair take. I'm not even going to let anybody change my mind. I mean, this goes as far back as the floppy disk. Do any of you even know what a floppy disk is? I can't remember the last time I've seen one. And then it escalated to the MacBook. Remember when they removed the CD drive? That was something I was alive for, that I remember being, in my young, like, sixth grader mind. I was like, screw Apple, this is crazy. How am I gonna play the Oregon Trail now, guys? I don't know. And they've also done this in small ways over the years, with the headphone jack. It was crazy. Everybody just said, cool, take my headphone jack. I don't care. I'm kidding. No, people lost their minds. And then you have goofier ones that don't even affect anybody that people get riled up about. Most recently, the Pro stand for $1,000, the Mac Pro wheels for hundreds of dollars, the $550 AirPods Max. But while those are silly and fun examples of like, Apple, you charge a lot for your products, that's funny. It doesn't actually like really impact like most people. Like, I don't know anybody personally that's bought a Pro stand. I don't know anybody personally that bought the wheels on the Mac Pro for hundreds of dollars. And I don't think I will know anybody personally that gets AirPods Max. But in those cases specifically, where it's just like ultra high-end product, catering to the elite, it's like, go for it. I don't really care. Like the fact that AirPods Max are $550 doesn't actually bother me. Like, yes, it's expensive, but Apple also sells lower-end headphones options, like Beats, Studio 3, I think are $350 or $400, and they're good from what I understand. They're pretty good headphones. So it's not like, I'd be frustrated if Apple didn't have any lower end options, but with, $100, $50 AirPods, you've got the Beats lineup, like they have things in place that you can still get a good product without spending as much money. And then of course this year, the power brick. How could we forget the power brick being removed from the iPhone 12 box? Well, in next year, we might be even getting a thinner box. And this is evidenced, of course, by rumors of a portless iPhone. But something from Apple themselves is what I'm actually focusing on today. They send out surveys from time to time asking people about new products. And you might say, okay, like every company sends out surveys with like hints of experimental things. But in like July of this year, they sent out a survey about removing charger from the box. And what did we see in October of 2020? No headphones, no charger in the box. So there's precedent, and this has happened multiple times in the past, where Apple will test the waters. It doesn't necessarily mean that whatever they're surveying you about is 100% going to happen. That's not it at all. But it means that they're internally discussing this. They're thinking about it, and they want to know how bad people are going to feel about it, or how excited people are going to be about a new product or service or feature. And this most recent survey focuses on two things. One, what comes in the box of the iPhone if you use that stuff. Not a fan of that question. And then number two is about Face ID. And that's the more interesting of the two, and the way more exciting thing of the two here. First off, they're asking if you use like the Apple sticker, the SIM card tool, and then importantly, the Lightning to USB-C cable, the charging cable, because you don't get a power brick anymore. They still give you the cable though, so you can plug it in to any USB-C port and charge your product still. But they're starting to question about the cable. So it's like, oh, Apple's just going to remove the cable next year. That's basically what they're getting at here. I think that is absolutely possible. Like, say what you will about how you feel about the power brick, but I don't think any of us would be surprised if tomorrow Apple just said no cable in the box. It's just the phone now because there's too much cable e-waste. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. What I think this is really alluding to is an iPhone with no ports. Because right now, even with MagSafe being added on all the iPhone 12 models, which is actually the way I preferably charge right now, I'm a huge fan of MagSafe. I think it's one of the coolest things Apple has brought to the iPhone in the past decade. But we still have the Lightning port. But of course, if Apple removes the port, as a lot of rumors have suggested, on at least one model, I have zero confidence that they're going to do it all at once. I have high confidence, close to 100%, that it will happen on at least one, maybe two models where there's going to be no ports at all. So it's like, okay, well then how do you charge it? MagSafe. MagSafe's the answer. There's a reason that Apple introduced it in 2020 to get us used to it, to get us excited about it, just so that when the ports are removed, because that will free up a little bit of space, just like with the headphone jack, that gives Apple more room for activities and, bigger batteries, they'll probably say, and other features, maybe better MagSafe technology on the inside. So that's sort of the angle. Of course, you're not going to need a lightning cable in the box of your iPhone if there's no lightning port. Like, it's one thing to remove a power brick. It's another thing to force people to charge in a specific way. Because, say what you will about the power brick, I still don't approve of it. There is wireless charging, there is MagSafe charging, and there's still the lightning port with a cable. So you just need to find a USB-C outlet, essentially. But when you change the port on here and you remove it so that it's just the buttons on the phone, then it's like, okay, well, a lot of people don't have a wireless charger. It's not one of those things like Bluetooth and AirPods where it just kind of exploded and everybody hopped on. Most people I know, the vast majority, I'd say upwards of 75 to 80%, have never owned a wireless charger and will not until probably this happens and they're forced to upgrade and get something different. The thing about wireless charging, Qi by itself, is that it sucks because you can't use your phone while it's charging. Apple's smart though. They said we can fix this, which is what they did with MagSafe. And again, I'm a huge fan of MagSafe. I think it's great. I don't know. It feels like actual innovation to me. So that's on the first part of the survey. Apple's obviously curious about usage and contents in the box. The other part, for the first time that I've seen on a survey from this Apple, is focusing on Face ID and how a user feels about it. Specifically, they ask if you're not satisfied with Face ID. If you answer no, it gives you a bunch of other options. So it's asking security or privacy concerns. I don't like having to pick up my phone. Slow performance. It doesn't detect my face in all situations. Low light, different angles, lying down. I prefer Touch ID. Not reliable. And then other and not sure. But as you can see here, Apple has perfectly outlined on their own official survey the pitfalls of Face ID. Now, I am not going to sit here and tell you that Face ID was a mistake, that Apple should have never touched it, because to this day, I should say till March of this year, I was a Face ID stan. I like Touch ID, but also Face ID was really smart. I don't know anybody else that's gotten close to Apple in security and privacy for facial scanning technology. Every other company has it. It just doesn't seem to be as reliable, as quick, or as secure and private, which is something that is really cool. And I've loved Face ID. But this year, with everybody starting to put coverings on their face, hopefully, if you're being responsible out there, you have a covering on your face, we're starting to see in addition to these other things that were a bit more subtle, you can't have my phone that's right here flat on the table unlock. It has to be tilted at a certain angle. And it is only so wide angle. And it can, and in most situations, it is slower. But more specifically with the masks, you can't unlock with Face ID at all. So you're back to, in any public situation or where you're around other people, doing the passcode. And it's annoying. It's not a deal breaker. I'm not I'm going back to the iPhone SE because I need Touch ID. But you start to see where the downfalls are. I think this is suggesting that Touch ID is making a comeback. Why? Because other extremely reliable sources have said the same thing. Mark Gurman of Bloomberg fame and 95Mac alumni has said that Apple is working to not only bring back Touch ID, but use it in combination with Face ID, in conjunction, I should say, to use them together. And this is brilliant to me. This is going to allow Apple to sell the iPhone is not only A, having two-factor authentication, but B, giving people more choice. And that's what I'm getting at here. That's what makes me most excited about Touch ID making a comeback. I think there's going to be a ton of people that will say this is, oh, Apple was wrong. They should have never gotten rid of Touch ID. It was clearly the better and superior solution. But I don't agree with that. Because the thing with Face ID is that it's not bad. It's actually really good, and it is really fast. But it has some issues. So when Apple brings this back on the iPhone 13, they'll be able to say, hey, maybe for those of you who, took the survey and didn't like Face ID, they can sell it as Touch ID is back with Face ID. So you can use both, or you can just use one or the other. If you just want to use Touch ID, rumors are it's not actually going to be in the power button, but actually in the display. You know, ironically, by the time Apple brings this back, perhaps the pandemic will finally be gone in like September, October of 2021. Honestly, we don't know. But I think that this choice is huge. And we're starting to see Apple do this slowly but surely. I mean, remember Apple back in the day, criticize them for what you will. And I feel like I do so very regularly, calling out them in cases where they remove the power brick from the box. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. This is not in the best interest of customers. AirPods Max have color options. The new iPad Air comes in a lot of different colors. That is choice that you're getting here. They even put Touch ID back on an iPad design that supported Face ID. Like, I like this era of Apple where they're open to experiment and they're not afraid to maybe not do the thing that they've always done. They are taking creative leaps in a lot of ways. With MagSafe, no Android phone has this magnetic charging technology. I feel like we were at a period where innovation was just so slow and creeping, but I feel like we're starting to see some really exciting things. And the fact that you'll be able to have Touch ID or Face ID back is good because it's Apple admitting that maybe one isn't better than the other, but that they're both equally good and you should be able to choose whichever one you want. So good news and kind of mediocre news, just further confirmation that there will be at least one iPhone without ports. But let me know your thoughts on all this down below. What do you think? Drop a like if you enjoyed this one. Hit subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Love you guys, and stay safe out there. See you in my next video.